Thanks for all the pizza. Civility.
They love you. They love you.
Good manners. Let me ask you about 3 things. You can pick your poison. Dr. Carson has had a problem explaining what he meant by I was offered a full scholarship to West Point. It turns out that some unnamed guys whose names he forgot, military figures in the ROTC, told him they could get it for him. And that's what he meant.
You know, I think sometimes we make a mountain out of a molehill.
Is that a mountain out of a molehill?
I mean, I'll give you an example. I didn't graduate from college. I went 2.5 years, and then I went to medical school, and I worked really hard, and I'm proud of that. The media has skewered me for occasionally saying I had a degree in biology. I didn't intend to, tell something that wasn't true. I'm proud of the fact that I got out early and I don't have a degree and went to medical school. So I think sometimes we go overboard with things, trying to play gotcha. And he's a Johns Hopkins surgeon. You think he would intentionally lie about, getting a scholarship to West Point? They don't even give scholarships. I think it's kind of a misunderstanding of a situation from a long time ago. But I don't think it goes to, I might have my quibbles with him, but I don't think it goes to his integrity. I don't think it's like, oh, he's a guy that is a janitor and he has to lie about going to West Point. This is a guy who's a neurosurgeon. He doesn't need to. Would he purposely make up a lie about getting a scholarship? I think it's just sort of a misunderstanding of past
So you give him a ride on this.
I do.
I'm just trying. Okay, let's talk about something that really makes me happy. George Bush Sr. has come out in this book by John Meacham, who's a great historian, and basically said that my son W was surrounded by the wrong people. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, the Hawks, the neocons, he called. He even went after the axis of evil phraseology that David Frump cooked up, the neocon fellow cooked up. And he basically said my son was screwed by these people. He was taken in, used by them, and by the way, it's still his fault. I've been waiting for that thundercloud of revelation for about 14 years now, and here it is. What do you make it? Because you're on that, although you're different ideologically, you are a libertarian, you've always questioned that Iraq war.
Well, when the last time Dick Cheney was right, when he advised the first president that it would be a disaster to invade Iraq, and he said it'd be a civil war and chaos and it wouldn't work. Yeah, that's
Bush,
what he told the first
old man Bush, with respect, former President Bush, said Cheney changed.
Yeah, and I think there may be some truth to that, but I think the problem is that Cheney's been wrong about most foreign policy decisions for the last 30 years. I mean, he really is. Look at it. Were we greeted as liberators? Did the war in Iraq make things better? I think we're less safe. The world's more chaotic. Iran's stronger. Who's Iraq's greatest ally now? Iran. Who's their best buddy, their second best buddy? Russia. All of this came out of Dick Cheney's philosophy, and I think he's been wrong about everything.
What do you make of a guy like your colleague in the Senate, Marco Rubio? All you have to do, it seems to me, is play Romeo to the neocon Juliet and sing the song of war, and guys like Shelley Addison come out of the woodwork and they fall in love with you, and Paul Singer. Everybody just wants to hear that hawkish song, and all of a sudden this young guy that's known for nothing else is some kind of hero to these guys.
But
is he pandering?
Is
he pandering?
Yeah, but do you know who Marco Rubio agrees with?
Who?
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton supported the first war in Iraq. She supported the war in Libya, the war in Syria, and she's supporting a no-fly zone. Sounds like Hillary Clinton.
Is she a hawk?
I think Hillary Clinton is a neocon. I think Hillary Clinton's a neoconservative, and I think that she and Marco Rubio are very similar in their foreign policy.
Hillary Clinton is a neocon.
You tell me. She supported the war in Iraq. She supported the war in Libya, the war in Syria.
Teasing.
She would have us. If
here.
Hillary Clinton is president, we will be back at war in the Middle East.
Really?
Absolutely.
What will be the country?
That's why I fear Hillary Clinton.
Well, let me ask you the question that haunts me, besides worrying about the economy takes another dive. Since the beginning of the Russian Revolution, we have avoided a war with Russia. And because we've avoided a war with Russian nationalism, not just Soviet communism, we've been able to save ourselves from a third world war. And how do we keep firm our position vis-a-vis Putin, who's a tough guy, and at the same time avoid going to war with him, which I worry about over Syria, for example?
You know, often there's been this debate, and everybody points fingers, and we say either neocon or isolationist. We ought to have a discussion about diplomacy. Are you diplomatically an isolationist, or are you diplomatically for engagement? All throughout the Cold War, Republicans and Democrat presidents talked to the Russians. We never stopped talking, and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
That had avoided calamity. We have people, and I think actually, frankly, Marco Rubio is one, that are naive and say, we need a no-fly zone, and I'm not talking to Putin. Carly Fiorina says the same thing.
What would they have done during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for getting involved in a third world war. I'm not saying we roll over to Russia. In fact, we need to be strong. We need to negotiate from a position of strength, but we don't need to say we're going to shoot down your planes if they fly over Iraq. That is a recipe for disaster. But that's a position of Hillary Clinton and 6 or 7 of the Republicans. No-fly zone over Iraq. It's a recipe for disaster.
We have found common ground once again, Senator Rand Paul.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chris.
for coming in tonight.